Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if this is your first time here, you couldn't possibly know that I am on a mission to give you everything you could possibly need if you are looking to be more successful in your business. Providing, of course, what you need to be more successful in your business is to know more about and be implementing more efficiently, more enthusiastically and more effectively sales and marketing in your business, because of course that's what you need. You need more customers more profitably, and eventually everything you need to do that will be right here on this channel. So what happens here is on a Monday, I'm supposed to be here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. That's the series on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I bring in anyone I can find with experience to share with you if you're looking to be more successful in your business. That's Talk Marketing on a Tuesday. Every other Wednesday, Melanie Farmer comes through and we look at the marketing news and speculate wildly what it might mean for you in your marketing life, in your business. And on the other Wednesday, I review so you don't have to. And on a Thursday, you'll find me very occasionally here thinking out loud. And on a Friday, we react to the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. So if that sounds like it might be interesting or useful, please tell me it does. Then now would be the very best time to like, share, subscribe, and comment, because that will give us the motivation which we dearly need to continue on this epic, epic journey. Now, you lucky sausages, if you're catching this on the day it goes live, it will be a Wednesday. It will actually be today, Wednesday, the 6th of December. And it's that Wednesday, one of the 2 Wednesdays in the month, when Melanie Farmer comes through, the concierge of co-creation at Crazy Might Work. And we look at the marketing news and speculate wildly about what it might mean for you in your marketing life, in your marketing business. Good morning, Melanie Farmer.
Good morning. Great to be here in the Australian summer for me. Having a great day over here.
Fantastic. In the Blue Mountains. I'm probably a little bit jealous. Is it properly summer now? It must be. It's December.
Listen, no need to be jealous. It's like 37 degrees. We are looking down the barrel at 43 degrees Celsius. Heard it here, folks, for the weekend. So it's going to be swimming in the creek. It's going to be air conditioning inside. But right. I have got a glass of limoncello with my name on it with a bit of ice. Yes, but I'll be inside drinking that because it's getting pretty darn hot.
Okay, good. Very nice. That does sound hot. 43 degrees. But it might be, I haven't checked, it might be that sort of temperature where I'm headed for the weekend, because I'm off to do some work in Dubai. And the temperature in Dubai is well, it is the middle of the night now in Dubai, but it's nice. It's like 29, 28. That's perfect. That's where I'll be. But I won't be swimming in the creek because the creek in Dubai is kind of full of boats. Is the issue with the creek in Dubai?
Beach is nice. Nice waves. But I would say with Dubai, you've got your good aircon. You won't have Cyclone Jasper bearing down on you, which might be hitting both Indonesia and Australia shortly. So this is what's following our
shortly.
Wave. So we have this heat wave that we're about to hit on the weekend, and there's news that will be shortly followed by a cooling down relief, but a brutal cooling down because via a Cyclone Jasper.
Cyclone Jasper.
Cyclone Jasper or Hurricane Jasper, they've named it, whatever it is, it's a cyclone hurricane vibe on its way somewhere off the east coast of Australia. So the good news is we'll all cool down. The bad news is we might lose the roofs of our houses. So we have to see what happens.
There's always something going on in Australia. There's always something going on. I feel like you guys do it for the attention. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, it is selfish. Like no one would remember that we were here. We didn't have the decency to have some kind of, disaster. They'd be
constantly,
oh, that's
constant
right.
disaster.
People then. Yeah, we don't like to, we get bored of it. I mean, I suppose all this investment in training people up in the fire and emergency services, we need them. So every now and then we put in an order and say, like, they've got nothing to do. Can we have another fire, another hot cyclone, how about a flood? We haven't had an earthquake. That's sort of New Zealand decided they wanted to be different, so they've gone for earthquakes.
Right.
But we do the other stuff. They can't handle hurricanes. They just go for your straightforward earthquake.
Good, good, good. Well, interestingly, we're not here to talk about natural disasters, Antipodean natural disasters. We do get the opportunity to have a boast. Do you want to have a boast?
Well, I think I've single-handedly offended two countries right there with those statements. Is that a boast?
That's a
Boast.
boast.
Oh, I know. I have completed my semester on biomimicry thinking with an A, possible A plus. I'm waiting on my last assignment grade. So that means in 3, I know more things about borrowing design recipes from nature and putting them into practice in the human design world.
Excellent.
There you go.
And let's not trivialize this. This has been an enormous amount of work in the last 2 months, like a very challenging piece of work. Is that right? That's tested you physically, spiritually, mentally, and you've made it through.
Yes, I've had an experience. I have had an experience, and there's lots of opinions and feelings about that. But do you need to do 4 taxonomies in one semester? I don't know. But anyway, coming out the other side of it, I have a lot of tools, and it's very interesting, and a lot of respect for nature, which always, but yeah, I have lots of opinions and feelings which I won't share.
Okay, good. My opinion is that course sounds like it's too much work. Somebody's got carried away with the amount of work they think they can make you do. That's my theory. I've got a boast. I've got several boasts. I'm killing it over here. I did lose 7 kgs, but I did fall off the diet in spectacular fashion yesterday. And I ate Portuguese sausage and eggs on toast, beans on toast, and then pizza for dinner. So maybe I've put on a little bit of the 7 kgs that I took off. But I've bought myself a bicycle. I am now swimming, cycling, or playing tennis daily. I'm in my ice bath daily. I only did 2 minutes today because it's 5 degrees. And I've had my kitchen fixed, and I've raised the greenery. So now you can see the greenery when I'm standing at my desk like this. So I am... Do you see? It's all 30 centimetres higher. I mean, it's a little bit... You wouldn't want to bump into it. There's going to be a loud crash and a lot of mess if you bump into it. So I don't know if it's the most stable thing. But that's my... I've been on a kind of mission this year, I think, of like every day doing something to improve my experience, existence, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of this year, I'm feeling that I really have done that, And I'm excited about next year already because you and I, Melanie Farmer, are going to sit down and we're going to actually plan how we're going to improve our experience next year. So that's going to be really cool. We won't put that on this channel. We'll put that on, I don't know, we'll just do it, shall we? Without for nobody but ourselves.
What you talking about in terms of boast there, little things you've done, and there's a really great study I've recently read about, like, if you do something every week to make your life a bit more efficient, easier to live, better, then at the end of every year, your life will be better in 52 ways. So, Of course it will. And so if what that looks like is that you've just kind of reorganized a cupboard or a drawer, or, how your desk is laid out, your life is going to be better in 52 different ways, and it will continue to be the gift that keeps on giving, because let's say you've organized your desk, you don't need to do that. Now you can move on to another, rather than have all these little pebbles like, oh, if only this, and that's a pain, and why I can't reach this or that. So it's just, it's small things mean that your life is going to get that. So it's just small, right? But it's just a habit thing. And I like the idea that, you'll get to, and it's nice at the end of the year to look back and go, my life is better in 52 ways. How is it better? Let's have a look at that.
And, but 52 ways isn't enough for me.
Yeah, why not?
Because if you improve your life every day by 1%, at the end of the year, it's 365% better. Do you know what I mean? That's 3.5 times better than it was when you started. And you're right. I think like the accumulative benefit is, and also I'm a great believer in momentum. Do you know what I mean? So if the first thing you do is get up and tidy your desk for an hour, then you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And then you're free to go on and do the next thing, I think. So yeah, I really believe in this, and I really do. I really am excited about next year. I really feel like I'm going to make strides next year, like what I have to do for money, or what I have to do for money, or what I do for money is tremendously exciting. What I do at home is tremendously exciting. You know, I really do think with some effort and some focus, then next year is going to be tremendously exciting. That's what I think. Okay, good. Well, we're not here to talk about my kitchen, raising pot plants, your course, natural disasters. We're here to talk about the marketing news. So I've carried over the marketing news that I was going to talk about last week when you were in absolutely no state to do this. So that's interesting. What's caught your eye in terms of what's going on in the marketing news, and how are we going to frame this for the people?
Right. So I've got three things that grab me. One is, of course, Elon Musk swearing at his revenue stream advertisers, and also framing the demise of Twitter.
Right.
He's starting to do that, which is just a very interesting move, I think, from him. He's calling out to Earth to say, let's see how Earth responds. So I think that's kind of really an interesting sort of thing that's going on with Twitter and Elon Musk, because remembering that he's not the CEO of Twitter anymore, but you wouldn't know it if you followed the news in any way. So it hasn't stopped him being the voice of Twitter. The second thing is LinkedIn and their response to this, and how quietly LinkedIn is kind of, it looks like telling a very different story, and, you know, just having steady stability, growth and whatever. So the strategy with LinkedIn and how that is effectively pulling people across, so that it starts to become the new Twitter. So that's
Right.
it's just interesting to see what's going on with LinkedIn. And the third thing, which is kind of small but will have quite an impact, is the taking away of messaging across Instagram and Facebook. And so that sort of integration. So there's a lot of shifting and merging and moving in social media in general. And so those conversations are going to move into read-only mode, and you can't DM each other across platforms. So I'm interested in that, and I think it's effectively not understanding user needs is what's gone on there, but an expensive experiment maybe.
Right. Okay, good. Interesting. Excellent. I'm also interested in this Twitter X situation with Elon Musk, although I suspect I suspect I've got a very different take on it. And then I've got a thing about, so then it makes sense if you are going into LinkedIn because of the Twitter thing, that's fine. I've got a thing about the Google employee resigning after working for 18 years at Google. And then the last thing I've got is a Meta engineer talking about the way Meta affects children, adolescents, and what Meta are doing about it. So it's interesting. I've just realized that my first story, which is context around this Twitter thing, is on New York Times, and I don't subscribe to New York Times, so we can't see it. So let me see if I can find another version of that same story. Of course, I will be able to. So it's interesting. Okay, let's go Reuters. Reuters will allow us to look at it. Okay, good. So let's start here. So I picked this story last week because I thought you would enjoy it, basically. Because we know that you get very excited about the travails of Twitter. So this was the story, November 25th. So this was last week. X may lose up to 7 million by year end on advertiser exodus. So Elon Musk-owned social media company X could lose as much as 70 million in advertising revenue by the end of the year as dozens of major brands pause their marketing campaigns, as reported by the New York Times on Friday. Musk backing an anti-Semitic post on the platform last week has led several companies, including Walt Disney and Warner Bros. Discovery, to pause their advertisements on the site formerly called Twitter. X has struck back and sued media watchdog Media Matters, alleging the organization defamed the platform with a report that said ads for major brands, including Apple and Oracle, had appeared next to posts touting Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Internal documents viewed by blah, 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 blah. So this was the start of things. Yes? An anti-Semitic post and advertisers fleeing. And then this was the response from Elon Musk. So let's start this from the beginning.
What was that trip like? Yeah. And obviously, you know that there's a public perception that, and you're clarifying this now, but there's a public perception that that was part of a apology tour, if you will. That this had been said online. There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger today.
I hope they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go yourself.
But
go yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
Well, let me ask you then.
Right. So, your face.
I mean, you know, it's actually like I don't know if I'm not saying like it's more like with a marketing hat on. I'm wondering why, like, he's not a stupid person, right? So I'm not sort of like, oh, he shouldn't say that, and blah. It's people are talking about him. So I've got the marketing hat on, which is thinking, what's he doing and why is he doing this? Like, there's, you know, is there intention? You know, it doesn't seem like the sensible thing to do. But
okay,
you know,
so let's
yeah.
Right. So maybe what he's doing is what he's saying. He's just resisting the blackmail. Like, who gets to decide what he says? Like, is it Warner Bros? Is it Disney? Is it Apple? Is it, like, who gets to decide what he says? Because if it's not him, then what? So, I mean, I can't find the original tweet, but it was somebody making an argument, and he said basically this is the truth and shared the tweet. But the argument was, I don't even want to get into if it was anti-Semitic or otherwise. It wasn't anti-Semitic. It was somebody making a pro-Palestinian argument and talking about what Israel, the country, has done. And he said, you're telling the truth here. So if this really interests me, this really, really interests me. So if you are not allowed to express your opinion, like if a media company is not allowed to express an opinion on something that's going on and something so awful that's going on, then where are we? Because the whole of the it seems like Israel are losing the PR war, but the vast majority of the mainstream media is wholly in support of Israel committing what are clearly atrocities. We think now 20,000 people have died. And if Elon Musk, the richest person on the planet, isn't able to say there are nuances to this that aren't being expressed, then where are we? Where Disney and Warner Bros. And Apple and Microsoft and whoever else it might be get to decide whether a media platform exists or otherwise. And I think what he's saying here is literally like, I'm seeing his lips moving. It's like, I think this is blackmail and I'm not going to be blackmailed. And then to preempt your next story, which I hadn't even considered until you put the link through, like if this means it's the end of Twitter, then it's the end of Twitter. Now, Twitter has always been the most, what's the word? Twitter has always been the platform that inspires the most debate. You know, so if it goes away, then what we're left with are social media that we've seen because there's been congressional investigations, whatever they call those things, where it has been demonstrated that the states have implanted themselves in Facebook and Google and were implanted in Twitter. So where are we? So where we are is that all we have left are media platforms that are essentially mouthpieces for governments. So I think this is interesting. What Elon Musk is doing in a marketing sense is what Elon Musk always does in a marketing sense, which is generating millions of dollars worth of PR. Like whether you like it, whether you don't like it, everyone's talking about Elon Musk again. Everyone's talking about X again. Everyone's talking about the car company again. You know, so this is how he has become the richest person on the planet, is because he's the master at this. And from a marketing perspective, the way you decide where to put your advertising dollars shouldn't have anything at all to do with what the CEO or the CTO or whoever who works for the social media platform does or says, until it's actually illegal. It should do with, are we able to generate profit from this advertising? Are we able to acquire customers in a cost-effective, profitable way? And what they shouldn't be doing is be trying to drive public opinion when it's about a genocide, when it's about 20,000 innocent people having died. I just think I censor myself because I have customers. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to say something to offend my customers. But this is where we've got to, where we're all in this situation of self-censorship because somebody with a bit of money is going to turn you off, is going to turn off the supply of money. So personally, I find it really refreshing to see somebody stand up and literally say, fuck you. You don't get to decide. Like, you don't get to decide what I say. You know, what he said is this person's telling the truth. And what the person was doing was reporting on the other side of what the public, of what the government want, or certainly the US government, the UK government, want people to think about this awful, awful thing that's happening. Mm. So I think, what do I think? I think Elon Musk has gone up enormously in my estimation again, because what he's saying is, essentially what he's saying is, I put $44 billion into this thing, but I'm not, so if it's $75 million in ad revenue, or if it's the $44 billion that me and my mates pulled together to buy this thing, I'm not going to be blackmailed. There was a thing about a month ago, same thing. And he was saying the same thing. He was saying, like, don't think I can be bought. Do you know what I mean? It's like, don't think I can be bought. So he went to Israel. I don't even know what that looked like. It's appalling what's happening. How are any of us living with this? There's another level to this, which is really interesting. There's somebody I talk to who's, we agree on absolutely everything, but we disagree on this. And he's saying we're just going to have to agree to disagree. How do you agree to disagree when you're arguing about genocide? How have we got to that point in our lives where, I don't know. So anyway, that's my take on this. I don't think it makes any difference to Elon Musk's life greatly if these people advertise, if Twitter is successful or otherwise, any of these things. Like, he's got enough money that he could just go away forever and never have another problem or issue in his life. But I'm glad he's not doing that, because I don't see many people standing up for innocent people. Do you know what I mean? It's like, in this instance, the most innocent people, children. It's, yeah. So, and this thing about anti-Semitic is, these people have put themselves in a place where it's impossible to criticize them because you will be charged with anti-Semitism. And what they're doing is they are devaluing that charge to the point where it's almost meaningless. And that, for me, is probably the most anti-Semitic thing you could do, is take the most vile thing that could possibly happen to a race of people and continually roll it out and roll it out and roll it out and roll it out until you get to the point where it's of no value whatsoever, because they've cried wolf so many times, like in this instance. So you got me on one. I do try not.
Yeah, I hear you, because I think it's like weaponizing the words anti-Semitism, and
Yes.
so then you are beyond reproach. It's like if a woman says, the patriarchy, that word is weaponized, I think,
Yes.
to a point where, you can't have a sensible conversation because you're using weaponized language, or you're using language in a way that means that you can't actually look at the facts. You can't say, let's put that to one side and say, this is happening and nobody thinks it's a great idea.
No, this is happening, and it's an
I'm sorry.
absolutely awful thing. And I've seen a lot.
There's like a theatre that can surround the whole thing, which is this weaponizing of the language of anti-Semitism, of patriarchy, of this and that, and that's distracting from the facts. It's distracting from the debate. So it's like a criteria weighting that is irrelevant. Like, I think it's irrelevant that a man is violent to a woman. Patriarchy. No, it's actually irrelevant. The man being violent to the woman is all you have to deal with. That's actually in itself. Let's take gender out of it. That's not a great, behavior. That you sort of just look at the actual actions and take out these loaded words. Look at something without those layers, and then you can have a proper conversation. So I think this is where it all sort of starts to get unravel, because it's just this distraction.
So what's happened is the country, Israel, has appropriated Jewishness. So what I've seen in the last week is a lot of Jewish people saying Israel isn't my country. They're not speaking on my behalf. They're not acting on my behalf. And what they're doing is actually appalling. So what Israel does is not what Judaism does or what Jewish people do. So because Israel has appropriated Jewishness, to criticize Israel, in the definition provided by like the United Nations on anti-Semitism, to criticize Israel is to be anti-Semitic. It's absolutely not. It's like me dressing up as a woman and assaulting someone and then claiming that I am a woman to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. And saying women are bad because they assault people. And the people who are paying for this are obviously the Palestinians are paying for this hugely, but Jews all over the world are paying for this because actual anti-Semitism, that is violence or discrimination against Jewish people, has increased all over the world. And it's because of what the country Israel is doing, which has nothing to do, as far as I'm concerned, with what any Jewish person wants or thinks or needs. So to come back to the marketing, like we've said this a lot, I think, or I've said this a lot. Like your business, if you make a beer, is to sell beer. Like your business, if you make cartoons, is to sell business, to sell cartoons. Your business is not to drive the narrative in the media and decide which medias exist and which medias don't exist. That's not your business. Just make your silly cartoons, sell your silly cartoons, and in your private life, you can do whatever it is you like. I mean, Disney also doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to like employee rights and satisfaction and all of these things and environmental issues around their various parks. So I don't know. I mean, I was just really pleased when I saw this. It's because what somebody in the world needs to do, and I know you're not Elon Musk's biggest fan, is stand up and say, no, I am not going to turn my back on this situation because Disney buys some advertising. If you're going to buy advertising, buy the advertising because the advertising has a benefit for your business, not because the people who sell the advertising are kowtowing to your political opinion. I got on one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm all for that because I think it would be weird for him to do an apology tour, which is what they're talking about. I'm like, I don't want him to do an apology tour. You know, I really value. I think it was Rowan Atkinson, the actor and comedian in the UK, who gave a talk in the UK to the Senate or equivalent in Parliament about freedom of speech. And he talked about the fact that if views exist and we don't allow them to be spoken, then we drive them underground and we're no longer aware of those views and we can no longer do something about them. Nor can we understand who it is that we're serving in our population because we are censoring. And so he gave a really good perspective about that. You know, you have to allow things to be spoken aloud because they're being thought aloud and acted on. Sorry, not thought aloud, but people are thinking and acting on their beliefs. And if we don't know what people are saying because we've censored these things, then just like moonshine, it just goes underground. So it's unhealthy and divisive and polarizing to censor at all. So he did it much better than me, but the idea that you would have Elon's response, I don't think should have been, I'm terribly sorry, I'll retract my statement and now I'm going on an apology tour because Bob told me to. So I think it's correct that he doesn't do that. What I would challenge is that Disney themselves, I'm not saying they've been quite, how they've responded is necessarily the right way, but I feel like brands are connected to values, and if their values don't align, then it makes
don't
sense.
advertise.
Like, for example, right. So, for example, with Chrysler and Celine Dion, they had an association, and now they don't because it didn't make sense. So it makes sense to align yourself on a values level so that your customer can understand your values in action. And if the CEO or whatever, I think so. Because Like, for
No,
example, why is that not an appropriate brand value sort of thing?
because the brand value, which doesn't exist at all anymore, should be we deliver value to you. Whatever that value looks like, we deliver value to you. And the thing is, it's so far removed from that. Like, when did Disney last make an actual good movie? Just do that. Do you know what I mean? Just give me something valuable. And it's because, and all of this fluff around the sides, like we care about this, we care about that, apart from the fact that it is so often so transparent, like the chocolates we spoke about, the Skittles. Remember when they had the anxious Skittle and the gender
agree.
confused Skittle and all this stuff? And what's going on is they're
Right.
employing child slaves in Africa. Do you know what I mean? So it's so transparent. It's so false as to not be useful. Do you know what I mean? So just do the thing that you do. Do you know what? You make shoes, make me really nice shoes. You make chocolates, make me really nice chocolates. I don't care what you think or what you... Because here's the actual issue, is what we're now dealing with is not the well-considered and thought-out and values and traditions of a corporation. What you're dealing with now is the values of a mid-management marketing person who isn't qualified in life enough to say this is what we all believe in. Look at what went on with the beer people. What are they called? Bud Light. They employed a marketing director who basically came out and said, we're going to rip up the book. We're not interested in our boring, slightly racist right-wing customers. We're going to go for the trans market. And it wiped billions of dollars off their valuation. So this is what's going on. What's going on is that the values that they're expressing are not the values of the corporation. They're not the values of the leadership. They're the values of middle management marketing people who aren't qualified enough to have values and express them and dictate what the global narrative is.
So can I just qualify what I'm saying, which is that where at a point it's appropriate and at a point it isn't. And when we first talked about this, you might remember that I was citing a research study around the balance. So, for example, Patagonia their values are that Earth is their major stakeholder. And now they are remaking all of their products with Earth in mind. They're making their wetsuits out of Ulex, which is a particular fabric made from a tree. It's not XYZ, whatever, right? So it's all green and plantation safe, blah, blah, blah. So everything 100%. They are all about safe.
But Patagonia are probably the only global brand.
Let me just finish this thought, right? Because there's a link. Is that Patagonia are on a platform of our values are save the planet, bottom line. If they then had plastic forks in their kitchens, that would be weird. So they've got to really interrogate up because the customer is going to go, hang on a minute, I'm not buying any from you because I don't trust you because of X and Y and Z that you're doing. So they need, if they're on a platform of environmental, they've got to be looking at that across, where do I do my marketing even? Where do I, if they thought it through and customers were impacted and making decisions, which many are. There's a lot of studies around the eco-conscious consumer and what they will and won't tolerate from their supplier. And so if the idea of they are adding value to me because they don't use rubber from such and such a place, and then I find they are, I'm going to stop buying from them and I no longer feel they're adding value. So they've got that journey to go on. With Disney, in this case, if customers of Disney are disenfranchised, if there's enough of a connection where they go, I'm not going to watch Disney because they are advertising on Twitter and that doesn't align with what make people happy, then that is potentially so it's just, I'm not saying that is what it is, but it's understanding that there are times where your brand value may impact the perceived value of your service to your customers. So depending on what that is, and Patagonia is a good example because it's a lot more about, but they might sack someone from the board who they discover is, poisoning the water wells. And it would be appropriate because if we found that out, we'd be like, hang on, you really need to unfortunately get rid of that person.
Okay, so Patagonia is the best example of a brand that actually lives and breathes its values. Good. But Patagonia isn't saying, now we have an opinion on this other awful thing that's happening, and we're not going to subsidize, and we're not going to support any business that does that. The thing is,
correct.
So
silent on all that, but it's not, customers don't care.
Yes, but so what's established? What it sounds like is being established here is that your customers get to dictate your views on all of these things, and what Elon Musk is saying is, no, you don't. If I add value to your life, I'm happy to be in your life, and if I don't, I'm happy not to be in your life. That's literally what he's saying. Don't advertise. And if Twitter, which is something obviously that he's very personally invested in, goes away, so be it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be blackmailed because I don't know how any of us are living with what's actually happening in the world right now. Like what's happening in the world right now is by the numbers is worse than anything that's happened probably in the last 60 or 70 years. Like by the daily impact, it's the worst thing that's happened in the world for 60 or 70 years. And here's where it interests me, again, because I'm interested in ideas of obviously influence and thought and these kinds of things, is people ask the question, like, why did people go along with Nazi Germany and we're all going along with it now? Like millions of us aren't, millions of us are in the streets complaining, but billions of us are just like, hey ho. I mean, it frazzles my mind. We should probably get off the subject, but I'm saying thank God for Elon Musk right now because I don't see anyone else who's prepared to step out on a limb and or go out on a limb and actually say, fuck you. So I'm glad that he has.
I mean, yeah, but I do think that, that is going to affect not just the company going
he's telling no, but the effect is
and I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying that if I'm an advertiser on Twitter, I would be fucking pissed off, excuse my French, because I'd be like, well, that's great. Now all my fucking followers on Twitter are leaving Twitter. And then my money that I'm giving you to advertise, blah, blah, blah. Well, the next story suggests otherwise. Right, they're down to 20 billion value. They've had a 60% drop in whatever. So there's the LinkedIn story around that 60% of US adults who had used Twitter in the past year said they'd taken a break, and then the same survey, they'd be on the site next year. So if my advertising dollar is impacted by what's going on over there and what's being said and what's in the news about that platform. So in that sense, I'm all for freedom of speech and I'm all for XYZ, but I think just in terms of if your job, Twitter, is adding value to me as a customer, I would prefer that you were talking about what Twitter has available for you than having these public rows with Disney. That's means that I'm going to leave there, unfortunately, and that's bad for freedom of speech because I would prefer that it was actually allowing. But it's just all this sort of distraction from what Twitter's supposed to offer me as an advertiser, and so I'm going to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is going to offer me, a discussion that isn't about these two CEOs arguing. It's about LinkedIn and me, the customer. Thank you. So I do think that on the downside of what is going on is that it's not adding necessarily the value I'm trying to get out of my advertising dollar, just as it's just, so that is the impact, is that it's now causing this move So what I'm interested in is, what does this mean for LinkedIn? What are they doing, and what's their... So they are much smaller in some ways and bigger than other ways. They're not Facebook, so they're in much more professional recruitment, really. But you can see they're actually a bit of features. All these features are coming. So it's
Right.
quite
I thought
interesting
you were
where they're
looking at this.
investing and how they're growing. And they
It
are
will
focused
never
on the
be,
customer.
Melanie Farmer, it will never be Twitter. Never. It's never going to be that. It's never going to be
Never mind
Twitter.
that, but I think what I'm trying to say is that if I was going to be looking at who is focused on customer needs and who is not, I feel
Okay,
like
so here,
LinkedIn, I'm going, what do you need? Here's what I'm going to give it to you. And I'm going to only have conversations with you about your needs and how I'm doing the needs meeting. And as opposed to this complete distraction from features and benefits of Twitter, apart from the fact that, yes, it is all about freedom of speech. He's definitely nailing that benefit. Good. What else is going on there?
Okay, so for every person who feels the way that you do, there's a person that feels the way that I do. So this is the way that society has evolved in about 20 minutes. It's not 20 minutes. It's, where are we? 2023, 2024. It's 4 years. The whole world has changed. The whole world has become completely polarized. So for everyone who feels the way that you do, there's someone who feels the way that I do. I feel more motivated to be involved in Twitter now because I'm not doing what Bob Iger is doing at Disney and saying, if there's, I'm going to cut off my nose. So here's what I really think to what you're saying is the customers are saying, I'm going to cut off my nose to spite my face because I don't like the way he thinks about this specific topic. So the customers in your argument are not thinking about the benefit for them. And if they are advertising on Twitter out of charity, then they shouldn't be advertising because otherwise Twitter is never going to become the advertising platform they need it to do. And if they are advertising on Twitter because they benefit from advertising on Twitter, then they are literally saying, I am going to reduce the benefit for my business because I don't like what that person is saying. And then they are not taking responsibility for their business, for their employees, for their customers, for any of their people, because they will also go away, potentially. So this is where we've got to, where I don't think marketing people, if it's marketing people, like we've seen with the Bud Light thing, marketing people are not qualified to be judging people's situation on a whole range of topics, on a whole range of topics. So what I'm saying is make decent films, make decent beer, build relationships with your customers, add value to their lives, and leave Elon Musk to run his business. If people benefit, they should advertise. If they don't benefit, they shouldn't advertise. And you know what? He's either going to have a business that works or he's going to have a business that fails. But it shouldn't be on the basis that people don't like what he says, unless what he says is actually illegal. Okay? And what he's saying isn't actually illegal. What he's actually saying is in sympathy of a population who have just suffered 2 months of bombardment. It frazzles my mind. It shouldn't even be, I don't know. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot there. If I feel very strongly about, I'm not happy with what's happening in the Middle East. So I don't want to be, but to think that, I don't want to associate what's happening there with what's happening. For me, again, it can be sort of misconstrued. I want him to say whatever the fuck he wants, right? Say it. Good. I'm not disputing that. Go for it. What I am saying is that there's little airtime to say, here's how Twitter's doing X and Y, the services. And I mean, it's just missing. Whereas I look at the LinkedIn messaging and they're like, we're doing this for you. We're doing this for you. We're asking customers. There's actually a dialogue about customer needs that is just like, there's not even a dialogue about that. That I can,
Okay, so
it's overshadowed, and I'm like, I don't even know. But what's interesting to me is I'm on Twitter, I'm on it, you're not. So like the weirdness of the situation is that I'm still freaking on it, on that platform, and you're not on it anymore.
No.
You know what I mean?
Because they made it too difficult. Because there was no value. But it's not because they made it too difficult. Like, they closed down my account. It's like, am I going to invest 3 or 4 days in trying to get this open again?
Right.
I had 80,000 followers. Am I? And the answer is no. So, but it's not because I didn't like what the guy said. There was no value.
I'm just saying, like, as
I moved on. Yeah. So,
and that's
good.
unrelated and what. But yeah, so I'm just sort of saying, like, please know that I'm fucked off with what's happening in the Middle East. I am with Elon on that. I love that he is standing up and saying you can't ransom me and blah, blah, blah. I love that he's not gone on an apology tour for expressing a thing. And I've talked about Rowan Atkinson and how he stood up in Parliament and said you cannot start killing freedom of speech in the UK as well. That is something I feel very strongly aligned with Elon on, and I won't be drawn on the fact that I don't think it's good. What I am saying, however, is that there is it is drowning out, in my opinion, I have no idea what else Twitter is doing. Whereas if I looked over at LinkedIn and there's the effect of it, the effect is that this freedom of speech platform is getting, unfortunately, badly impacted by the way he's framing it. If he would have got up and said, I understand that people are making decisions based on what I've said. I will not be held to ransom. I will not be da-da-da. But instead he's swearing and it's very dramatic. So I feel dramatic. Like that is actually... I know, but like, honestly, people make decisions on, like, I can't be associated with a shouting crazy person, right? So
good. Here's the decision they should make.
That in a better way, I think it would be a much more effective and strong. Like, I think suddenly it would grow.
No, I think not. I think the thing is, what he's saying is, I'm not going to watch my P's and Q's, and you're saying he should be watching his P's and Q's, and I'm really glad he's not.
I'm saying there's other ways to say that will keep the bit. In fact,
but he has his brand, doesn't he? This is his brand.
Well, he's on it. Yeah, that's fair.
You what?
So that's. We've now talked about my roughly LinkedIn. So do we want to move on to another one?
Here's all I want to say about LinkedIn. Here's what I want to say about LinkedIn is LinkedIn for me is the least effective of all the social media platforms that I've ever used, that I've ever tried to use. Actually, it's not true. Here's the issue with LinkedIn. What they give away is so much better than what you buy. So all of the value I've had from LinkedIn, I've had for absolutely free. And whenever I've tried to invest actual money and time and energy in LinkedIn to get a benefit, it's failed. The two things are so entirely different. LinkedIn will never fill the shoes of Twitter, largely because it's linked to people's careers, and they're not going to be on LinkedIn having the kinds of conversations that people want to have on Twitter. All right, let's go on. I don't know. Yeah. Have I upset you, Melanie Farmer?
I just want to say, I think it's coming. I feel judged, and I don't think you mean to be judging me. I feel like I'm being told that I don't care about Palestinians, and that's not true.
No,
I don't know if that's what you're meaning to say. I'm trying to keep it back to the marketing side of this, and like, I feel like this is my problem right from the outset, is this weaponizing of this language that distracts from, like, let's get behind the curtain and say, what's the business doing? And I don't freaking know. All I can see is this war with the CEOs, and I hear, like, it's all great, say it, do it, say it how you like. But it means that this poor CEO of Twitter has no voice at all ever. She's just kind of getting overshadowed by the whole thing. And then whatever strategy they do have for serving me, the customer, I'm like trying to dig through these, distractions to say, I can't even find the data now because there's no one there, and it's all like, So I'm just trying to sort of separate the conversation about, yes, freedom of speech, yes, stand up to Bob Iger, yes, swear, do what you want, with this whole other discussion about, like, what's Twitter doing for me, and can I, what's going on in there that's, as a customer, trying to get, and I see LinkedIn not having those. They're a different platform. They're never going to be Twitter, but I like LinkedIn. We've had a lot of value. We've got several customers this year.
You had some really good training.
Fantastic, yeah. And from someone who thought it was good and worth doing, right? And so we absolutely love LinkedIn, and we are understanding, because of all their video tutorials and this and that, and their investment in people. And we like LinkedIn. And for us, it adds a lot of value. That's not going to be true for everyone. It depends on what your business is. For us, it's offering a lot more value than Twitter, which offers us zero value. But, it just depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve with your advertising channels, of course.
Are you feeling better?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, good. And all I would say is I hope what you're trying to achieve with your advertising channels is to find, win, keep customers profitably, because that's really what you should be trying to achieve. Okay, I don't feel like the other stories that we've got here are that exciting. I've got a story here about a Google employee who thinks the work ethic has gone from Google, etc., etc. I think as marketers, we need to be watching this. Like, I've got a thought bubbling away in my head about how the internet ends, because it seems to me like, as marketers, we're all very dependent now on the internet. But it seems to me like forever it's been in the hands of a very few people. Like, it's like the internet is Google, Facebook, Twitter, maybe LinkedIn, YouTube. Like, basically it's 4 or 5 corporations own the internet. And if they don't take very good care of it, then we're not going to have an internet. And it seems to me like they're not taking very good care of it. And it's completely trivial things, like when a child got hold of my tablet and managed to buy the world's worst game ever for £80, but I spotted it and it was fine. But then I thought I'd just get the money back from Google, and it seems like, no, Google want people to be selling these games through their platforms. It's like when I wasn't able to get a particular advertising campaign working, and I ended up speaking to somebody, and it looked like they looked like a scammer. When you see these offices of scammers in certain parts of the world, they looked exactly like that. They're renting the same offices as the scammers. So I don't know. I think we have to keep an eye on this, because these. Yep.
The really interesting thing to me is that employee has been there for 18 years. So
yes.
What does that tell us? This person really is like almost an internet elder. They will have seen it grow. For the why now? It's a very interesting decision. And it does speak to decision making. And if the only option is to leave the company, that tells me that they are not able to challenge in a way that view will have its time in the sun. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that there's something going on. If that's a loss, that is a loss, because this person, quite highly likely, like, things have got shut down or whatever, and how do you do this? Oh, well, Jim left, so no one knows. That happens. Yes. But it is, I don't know what this person did. I mean, were they the head of software coding or what? Yeah, but yeah, that's would be useful to just check. But it's the pretty scathing employee report. And the fact that they stuck in there for 18 years tells you something as well in itself.
Yes.
And then now.
So he described how he
talks about.
Yeah. So he described how he had the opportunity to experience the early days of Google, which was a company that genuinely cared about doing the right thing for its users and for society as a whole. He added that he witnessed firsthand how Google's employees were committed to the company's mission of organizing the world's information and making it universally accessible and useful. Over time, however, the ex-Google employee says that the tech giant's work culture began to erode. For instance, he added that the decisions that were once made with the best interests of users in mind were increasingly being made with the goal of maximizing profits. Transparency, which was once a hallmark of Google's culture, began to evaporate. He also added that the company's leadership under the direction of Sundar Pichai became increasingly out of touch with the rank and file employees. The thing is, what they've done is they've monopolized this and they've closed the door. So the internet, which was a tremendously exciting thing, is now the property of these 4 or 5 companies. And they are rinsing it for maximum profits. And I think it's an actual, like, maybe it's a bit dramatic to say the end of the internet, but like, things have happened. Do you know what I mean? Things have happened. And I've got another story. Shall we do my other story? So this is about a Meta engineer. This was in a congressional hearing. A Meta engineer saw his own child face harassment on Instagram, and he's testifying before Congress. But basically, he's saying the same thing. It's like publicly, Meta will talk about the safeguards they put in place for children, and in private, they're making decisions. Oh, you're not seeing it. They're making decisions based on how they make the most profit. And clearly, the earlier they get hold of people, like all businesses, the more profit they are able to extract from them. So this, for me, ties in with the first thing that we were talking about, is like, where was Disney when it actually had a right to make a stand, when there was content available through Twitter, like appalling content, depicting the abuse of children, etc., etc., that you would say should be closer aligned with Disney's values. Where were they then, saying turn this horrific junk off, or we're not advertising? They weren't there. So I don't know. I feel like we got excited and in a mood, and we're maybe less good friends than we were when we started this conversation. But
I think, look, I'm on the same page. I just wanted, like, I feel like, I don't know if you heard me, right? Like,
I heard you. Yeah, I did hear you.
Yeah, good. That's the main, because I think it somehow, I don't know how I was saying it, but like, whether it sounded like I hate Elon. I don't actually hate Elon. I hate the $8. That, I hated that. I was like, no, don't do that. But Elon himself, I think he's a bit of a nutter, honestly. But like, I don't think he's in any way a stupid person. I think that he does believe passionately and puts his money behind freedom of speech. I champion the fact that he is willing to say up yours to some very powerful people. I love that someone is in a position where they can do that, because we're in a world where that is less and less. A person who has the power to be able to stand up to the bully in the playground, like, yes, do it. But the other side of it is understanding that we want that platform to be around. And are you inadvertently destroying the one place where that's possible? Like, keep it around. Make it strong.
Yes.
Don't have people leaving and going off and cowering over in some other platform like LinkedIn. Have it be strong. Yeah. Find ways to make it strong the best you can, because we need it.
Yes. Like, we absolutely do need it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do I think in response to that? I mean, I understand where you are politically, so I'm not challenging any of that. I know what you're interested in and what you care about, so I'm not challenging any of that. There's two things that occur to me. Is one is that Like, to have customers, you have to be nice to customers and agree with everything they do and say. And do you know what I mean? It's like that idea for me, like maybe in like the reason I've had any success in my business ever, the only times I've had success is where I've shown really strong leadership, and I've had to sit my customers down and say categorically, if you don't do this or you do this in that way, it's not going to work. It's not going to be effective. And I've had to put their nose out of joint to put them on track. So I think the issue for me is like, if this idea is going to settle that your customers get to dictate what you think and what you say, then I think that's a really dangerous place to go to. And there was another thing that I think about, which is like the Elon Musk it's just our running joke, isn't it? It's like you never really enjoy Elon Musk being successful, and you always seem to enjoy a little bit where he's less successful. So that's just our running joke. I think let's hope there's more nutters like Elon Musk in the wings, because it really feels like we need some people like pointing this out. You know, it really does feel like that. It really does feel like that.
Yeah. I love that we are in a world where this can happen.
Yes.
I would hate to live in a world where, like Rowan Atkinson says, we're thinking things and no one knows it. And I agree with his assessment of that, which is that is far more dangerous than knowing what people are thinking.
Yes.
If we don't know what people are thinking, we are in trouble.
And in this instance, in this instance particularly, like the actual anti-Semitism that Jews all over the world are experiencing is not by people who are standing up and saying things. Like they're missing out that bit entirely. The perpetrators of that are going out and doing it. That's the danger. And that's like the backstop argument. That's why you absolutely have to have freedom of speech, is because otherwise people give up on speaking and then they just go straight to action, and then people actually get hurt. Wow, this was a heavy one, Melanie Farmer.
Yeah, real heavy, which makes my last story seem very unexciting, which is the Instagram and Facebook cross-messaging coming to an end. Bum, bum, no one cares. So I think my summary of that story is that no one particularly cares.
Right.
It's an experiment that didn't really work. And there's another story on that which says 7 nerds on Earth engaged with this, and that was it. So they're really just going, we realize the error of our ways. So it didn't really even make it out of, I think, America or whatever. So it's just like, I think it speaks to the fact that we need to listen to our customers and understand what they're trying to achieve. And this trying to do this linkage thing just wasn't something that anyone wanted, needed, whatever.
Yes.
And it's an attempt, I think, to strengthen the monopoly, but it's done the opposite. It's sort of made both platforms kind of
weaker,
seem a bit more vanilla somehow. Yeah, exactly.
Don't you just wish that more of these platforms would just deliver, or more of these businesses, more businesses in the world would just be 100% committed to and focused to delivering value for their customers? Like, the world would be a better place then, wouldn't it? Like,
yes. Look, if you said every week I am going to make our company 1% better, or in one way better for customers, their customer experience, then it would be 52 times better by the end of every year for our customers 100%. In the same, right? Yeah. So, I mean, there are customer experience, officers and so forth. But I mean, if that were prioritized, then the world for the customer would be so much better. I mean, I do see some smaller companies who are at the beginning very, very much that way. Tell us what you think. We'll change. We've heard you and you said this and now we're doing this differently. There's a lot of communication with customers, and there's a lot of trends around mass customization for that going on. But at this level, when it's such a large beast with, say, Google, Facebook, there is a losing touch with who even is our customer.
Yes.
And then so there's this change happens, and it's like, why have you made that change, which is worse for me? And but that's where customization's coming in. But yeah, I feel like, at no point do I feel like those organizations are asking me. And even if they did, they're not saying, here's what we've done about that. It's just too much data to deal with. So they don't come back to me and say, everyone said this, and this is why we're doing this and this. A few people said this, and we've decided not to do it. Here's why. None of that. It's just like, thanks for your survey. And it's going into the ether, and no one knows. Well, you don't feel heard at all.
And I think this is the great danger of where we are politically, and for these brands that are kind of freestyling on each end of the spectrum, is that nobody's at the spectrum. Like, there is clearly a very noisy minority at one end of the spectrum and a very noisy minority at the other spectrum. The rest of us are perfectly sensibly getting on with our lives. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think you can be driven by the noisy stuff, because the noisy stuff isn't representative of what the world is thinking. Yeah. That's the danger. That 100% is the danger. Okay, good. Did we get to the end?
I think we did.
Are we still friends?
Yeah, we are still friends.
Okay,
I think we're passionate about the same things.
Yeah,
really,
100%.
If I'm honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, fantastic. Well, so for those of us who are still with us, this will probably be the last marketing news of this year, because it's at the end of the year. So we'll be back again in January. Yeah. And if you haven't yet taken the opportunity to like, share, subscribe, and comment, and get involved and give us some motivation, then now is the second best time to do this. This has been a wonderful conversation. Again, thank you, Melanie Farmer. Probably our heaviest, most challenging conversation yet. But I think what we're talking about is important, and I think marketers should be thinking, and what marketers should be thinking is, how do I deliver value, and how do I get value from my suppliers, and not how do I get to decide what people think? That's not useful.
Totally. Completely agree.
Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode of Marketing Review. If you found this interesting and useful, then YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this. And this is the latest thing that we've produced. If you haven't yet, and you could take a second to like, share, subscribe, comment, do all of those good things, that will give us the motivation to continue on.